All right, welcome to Buddy Book Club. I'm Dylan here with the 16-year-old I'm shamelessly courting, Keith. What's up, buddy?
Heads or tails, D-man?
Tails never fails. Tails never fails.
Yeah, she should have known that.
Oh, we'll probably get into that, but I'm obviously not courting you, and you're obviously not 16. But here at the Buddy Book Club, we're breaking down some bestsellers, and this week we'll be discussing No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. If you'd like to recommend a book for us to read or reach out to us about any past episodes, you can visit our website, buddybookclub.com, or slide into our DMs on Twitter or Instagram, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcast, so please download and subscribe. Keith, No Country for Old Men, you had seen the movie and hated it.
I've seen half the movie. I stopped watching it.
Sorry, yeah, which is phenomenal. I mean, I watch a lot of movies, and I could probably count on one hand the amount of movies I've just like stopped watching. Props to you, really. It's it's like it's in its own tier.
Well, what is it that makes you stop? For me, if it's like overindulgent, when I get taken out of the movie and I'm like, why would you ever do that? It's so stupid. That's what gets me out. I'm like, I'm done with it.
So you're saying it insists upon itself? For me, usually I stop watching a movie because the wife and I will sit down to watch a movie. She'll fall asleep. I'll be like, all right, it's time to go to bed. And then I just don't revisit it.
There's a time we've like literally been like, no, I'm done with this.
The last one I can remember that we started watching and I stopped was Death on the Nile, the one with...
The Rock or whatever?
No. I mean, well, maybe he was. I don't know. I didn't see the second half. I just wasn't interested in it. Usually if I'm sitting there, I'm going to finish it. So we decided to do this book because you had also read Cormac McCarthy's The Road, because we were going to do that for the podcast, which is a critically acclaimed book. Everyone loves it, and you hated it. And so I said, all right, cool, I just won't read it. And you were like, well, fuck you. Yeah. You made me do this, and now you're not going to do it. So we had to go back to the well after a good friend of mine suggested this book and said it was very good. And he also hated The Road, so you had some backup there. We might as well just jump into it with some stock up, stock downs. Keith, what do you have for stock up, No Country for Old Men?
Stock up, paying someone so you can talk down to them.
Go on. Like a prostitute?
I wrote a blog about this very subject, about basically the worst part of having a job is that someone pays you. So because they pay you, you can't just be like, yo, shut the fuck up to their face. You basically have to just take it and listen and be like, yep, I'll do that better next time. So they can just talk down to you constantly.
Sure.
And you just have to wear it. You have to eat it, which is basically what Moss does when he picks up this 15-year-old. He just picks her up and then is like, oh, I'll give you a ride and here's some money. And then he just does that so that he can just shit on her and talk down to her the whole time. He's like, oh, I'll get your food for you. Oh, I can pay for that. Oh, let me guess, you're going to California, aren't you? Huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then he just like keeps on telling her like what life is and stuff. And it's like, I'd rather him pick up a prostitute and you cheat on his wife than do this. This is way worse to me. He's so smug. He's so over the top. And he's putting her in danger. He knowingly is doing this. He knows he's putting her in danger. Obviously, she ends up getting killed because of him. It's just the worst. There is that stock up, though. You pay someone, you can talk down to them and shit all over them, and that's what you have to take, and that's what happened here.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I did actually originally have hitchhiking as a stock up because... normally everyone says don't pick up hitchhikers, don't hitchhike, all that stuff. But the young lady that Llewellyn picks up pretty much hits the jackpot, minus getting shit on for the whole time. But he makes sure she's safe. He buys her lunch, and then he gives her $1,000. And so I was like, wow, this hitchhiking, like jot this down really quickly. You stock up. Smash cut to her being shot in the face. So, I had to scratch that off the list. So, unfortunately, hitchhiking did not make my stock up because although you get all those sweet things, if it ultimately ends in your demise, it's probably not the best.
Also, the lunch she ordered, that's not a light lunch for a hitchhiker.
What'd she get?
I think she got like steak and mashed potatoes.
Oh, right.
And,
yeah.
gravy.
Yeah. She had like a whole steak dinner.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing here? Like, you got to go like a nice, like light turkey sandwich and maybe a salad on a lunch when you're doing a full trip after that. You're going to immediately shit once you get back in the car, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to go for the turkey club.
That's the one thing I would have allowed him to talk down to her about was be that. Like, whoa, what are you doing here?
Yeah, it's like, I'm not pulling over. Like, you're going to have to shit in a bag like an astronaut.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, okay. So my first stock up, though, because hitchhiking doesn't count, was writing a screenplay before a novel. So I guess normally people just, write novels. But Cormac McCarthy said, you know what, I'm going to write this screenplay called No Country for Old Men. And once he finished, he was like, yeah, it's more of a novel, and like basically transitioned it into a novel.
Are you saying it was a pretty novel idea?
Oh, I see what you did there. But it just worked because when you're reading the book, it feels, I mean, we say this with a lot of books, but it feels cinematic. And obviously it did eventually get made into a movie, so that probably helps. But everything about it, the way like the timeline goes, characters, how easy they are to like get to know, everything about the writing aspect of it, I found to be very cinematic and super enjoyable. And I'm not a literary critic, but what I understand from his writing style is like very short sentences, not a lot of punctuation, no quotation marks. Didn't notice it at all when you're listening to an audiobook, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You do notice kind of like the short, quick sentences to some degree, but I have the attention span of a titmouse, so I appreciated that.
Yeah, there was also a lot of kind of one-sided conversations where someone would say something and they'd be like, "Sir?" and he'd have to like repeat it. I thought that was cool at first, but then it kind of got a little tiring.
You mean like with like Anton Chigurh when everyone always questions what he's saying? Because it's like, wait, what? Like that's so far out there.
I get it for him, but then even what's the police chief name, Bell or whatever?
Ed Tom or Tom Ed? Yeah.
But he would say something that was like profound, and then he'd be like, "Sir?" or like, "What do you mean by that?" And then he'd just repeat the same thing. All right.
Yeah.
I got a little annoyed with that. But no, I agree with you. The book, even though you kind of have images in your head with a movie, like it really does paint a pretty good picture, and the scenery and everything like that was really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It'd be funny if he had to have like a word limit for the book and like wrote the book and it was way too short because it was originally a screenplay, and he's like, I'm just gonna make everyone repeat what they say, so it doubles the size of the book right there. Boom, done.
Yeah. That's smart. Yeah, that's a good call. Right, look at that. I wouldn't. Yeah, if he just admits that, I wouldn't even be mad about that. Everyone's done that, obviously, and for a school paper.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the 1.25 spacing. Really sneak it in there, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
What else did you have for stock up?
Stock up Schrodinger's cat and quantum mechanics.
Oh, we're back.
Or physics.
We are back.
Quantum, yeah, we're back.
Explain both
of
those
baby.
to the listeners. Explain what both those
Well, I don't
mean.
really know. I had to look at the Wikipedia page again, and I still don't know. But Anton, I always think his last name's Chagrin. What's it?
Chigurh.
Chigurh. I'm going to say Chagrin for the rest of the pod, so just be ready for that. His whole existence was basically furthering quantum mechanics, right? Like every single thing he talked about was basically like, I'm not making this choice. The choices have led you to this. He has a quote, like, somewhere you made a choice, all led to this. The Moss's wife is like, the coin doesn't have to have no say in this. And then he's like, the coin is choosing this. I'm not doing anything. The coin is really the box, right, for the cat in this scenario where the coin, he puts his hand over the coin, and it's just a matter of she's both dead and alive at that exact moment, right? And he has no determination over that. The coin does. So really, he's just furthering that science, and he's just actually a great scientist and a good guy. That's what I think. That's his moral beliefs and his moral compass. And you know what? I have no problem with it. I mean, people always have this religious reasons for doing things, all these things. He's actually just following science. So I had no problem with it, and I'm stock up for both of those things.
Yeah, and I did like about this book the idea of fate versus free will. Was Llewellyn meant to go? Like, he's out there hunting pronghorn, which if you played some Red Dead Redemption 2, it's how I spend a lot of my days. So, I don't find any boxes of money, though. But it's interesting because he's just out there doing that. And was it fate that he goes and finds this trove of money? But then he has the free will to decide, do I take it or do I skedaddle? And, so there's a lot of, especially when it comes to chagrin, excuse me. There's a lot of fate versus free will. And he obviously believes in some level of fate where everything is predetermined, predestined, which is then funny at the end when he's just driving along and gets T-boned and bones start popping out everywhere. But he doesn't die. You can't kill the guy. You can't kill him, which is phenomenal. Love that aspect. I don't know if it would have been better or not, like some poetic justice, if he had died right there.
It would have been kind of like The Wire with what's his name getting killed, Omar, where it's just like, it's not some big shootout or whatever. It's just like some random kids that shoot him.
Yeah.
which I thought that was great, even though I loved Omar, obviously.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you say that because, I mean, we're just getting ahead of us and spoiling everything, so why not? But I had Shigur as, my favorite character, and it's because he's got a code. It reminded me a lot of Omar. Granted, his code is different, and it's definitely a fucked up code, but either way, it's a code.
He lives by it.
Yeah, I would have liked someone in the book to actually have flipped the coin and been right.
The store clerk
did. The store clerk call it right?
Yeah, I think he survived.
Oh.
I think that was why they did that, to show he's not just out there killing people just because he's like, I love it. It's like, no, this is principle. He flipped the coin, and the store clerk was both dead and alive at that point.
Yeah, yeah. And I like the idea of people are just kind of sheep going through this life, but when that coin is in the air or whatever the case is, you feel alive.
Like Fight Club, where he takes the guy out back and he's like, if you don't become a veterinarian, I'm going to come back and kill you. He felt something for the first time that day.
Yeah, I was thinking Deer Hunter. Have you seen Deer Hunter?
Wait, what? Oh, I'm thinking of the arcade game. I'm like, wait,
no, that's
what makes you feel alive?
Big Buck Hunter.
Yeah, what's the difference?
But I also have never felt more alive than playing Big Buck Hunter. And if people,
okay, we're on the same page.
Biggest issue is when you see someone at a bar, this Big Buck Hunter there, you're like, okay, I'm gonna play a couple games, and you see someone with the muzzle of the gun like on the screen. It's like, buddy,
can't
what
have
are you playing beginner mode? Like, there's a reason the gun's got a cord on it. It's not so you're gonna steal it. It's because you stand as far back as that cord lets you, and you go for a hunt. Like that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not shooting for headshots, what are you doing, right? I don't care about the heart. Go straight for that little bead between the eyes.
I'll plant myself at a bar all day with that there, and just you get a little drinking games going with it. I mean,
exactly.
There's nothing better.
Exactly.
Nothing better.
Yeah, but he's like some sort of like ancient demon. He's not really a man. It's just so interesting, his character, in that he has this like no remorse, but he's also super business. Like at the end when he has the meeting with the guy, he's like, here to do business. He doesn't fuck people over. You hire me to do a job, I'm going to do that job. Simple as that.
He was like, here's the $2 million back.
Yeah, minus $37,026 that I needed for expenses. He's like, got his buck slip that he's writing down gas after he almost murders a guy. Like, okay, I spent $12 in gas there. Let's make sure our expenses are well taken care of. The guy's taxes must be great.
He's not gonna get audited. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he's on top of his taxes. So it was just a super pure evil, but evil with a compass kind of thing. So loved Shigur. Like, I'd want a TV show about him. I just want a whole spin-off. Although I don't really want to know like what he's doing afterwards. But like they say, everyone shits. Everyone shits.
I mean, he was basically just watching TV, not changing the channel, sitting there staring at the TV. I was like, I like this guy. He's just a complete psychopath.
Yeah, it's like Golden Girls is on. He's like, fine, whatever, I'm good with it. What else did you have for stock up?
I didn't have any more stock up.
I had, talk about Shigur, some unorthodox weaponry, and in his cattle gun there, which. Mm-hmm. When I first saw the movie, I don't feel like there's almost a point to do the movie because these are exactly the same.
Well, I never finished it, so maybe I'll have to watch it. I mean, this book made me want to watch the movie because I was like, oh, this shit will really come together. But
okay,
I mean, I know it's going to insist upon itself again, but whatever.
I'm just fascinated how you think it insists upon itself because,
I mean, that's why we have to do the review, kid.
It was just like a super well shot Coen Brothers movie. And it was like perfectly casted.
Probably coincides with my hates, which I'll hold off on.
Okay. All right. We'll hold off on that. But yeah, unorthodox weaponry, the cattle gun. I mean, they're multi-purpose. You can blow out someone's brain without leaving evidence. I mean, how many times you see the cop show and they're like, all right, get the bullet out of the brain, forensic files. Oh, you got a casing. Yep. Let's match the casing up. Where's this gun come from? It's like, nope, this thing just plows a rod into your head. And then that's that. There's no evidence. I mean, obviously, if they pull you over and you got a cattle gun thing in the back in your trunk, then you're probably fucked. But on top of that, it can blow out locks. It's got multi-purpose. If you were Mr. Hands, you could probably do some butt stuff with it. That's a deep cut for anyone out there's early internet. Don't Google it. Do not Google it. Do you remember the Simpsons episode when Homer goes to the steakhouse? Did you ever see that one?
No, you quote Simpsons a lot, and I remember like 5 episodes of the Simpsons total.
Yeah, it was a good episode. He goes to the steakhouse, and it's like you can pick your own cow out, So he's like in the back, like, ooh, this is super exciting. He's gonna like pick the cow that he wants a steak from. He's like, I want that one. And he's like, okay, great. The guy takes the cattle gun to it, he's like, dies. He's like, actually, I want this one. The guy's like, okay, that's fine. And like that goes on for like a solid minute. It was great. It was really, really good. Classic Homer. But yeah, that was my introduction to cattle guns, and until I had seen this movie, and I'm just glad that it was like part of the book because it's super fun idea, and we really just get introduced to it at the beginning after he kills that cop, which was pretty fucked up in itself, and then he pulls the guy over, and just some random guy on the street gets pulled over, right to the head, like, oh fuck. Yeah. So just love a good unorthodox weapon. You don't always need to have, guns and knives in here.
I mean, he really should have came back and killed those two kids, though. That was a big mistake by him. But yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I know, and I wonder why. Like maybe he was hurt. But afterwards, when the Ed Tom or Tom Ed, whatever his name is, goes over and talks to them, like they should have been long gone. But you know what? Those kids were pretty much a steel trap. So those kids ain't no narcs.
That $100 buys you a lot these days,
Exactly. Let's get into Stock Down. What do you got for Stock Down?
Everything being bigger in Texas, Stock Down.
Okay.
All this time, I've thought Texas was this huge state that was like vast. Seemingly in this book, everyone's just bumping into each other. Everyone's bumping into each other and getting in, like street fights. Isn't the state huge?
Yeah, it's
like,
pretty big.
How are they constantly in the same place? They're like, well, they're going to that hotel in El Paso. And I like looked up El Paso. I guess it is a tiny town. It only has 1 million people.
Oh, it's very small.
It's 260 square miles, which means it's basically a fifth the size of Rhode Island. But yeah, they're just like, yeah, we're going to El Paso. And they're like, okay, then I guess I'll find him in that one motel there. This tiny city. What is going on here? Especially after the tracker, which in 1980s, I have to imagine the tracker is not like this. It's not Google Maps, But somehow they're just easily finding everyone, and everyone's leading to the same place, and they know they're going to be in this one city. So I guess we'll all meet up there. It's like, huh.
Yeah, it was MapQuest. It was no Google Maps.
It didn't really make a lot of sense to me, but I guess Texas is tiny, so Stock Down, Texas.
Especially that he was able to find him with the tracker, which leads me to my first Stock Down, which is return to the scene of a crime. I mean, Llewellyn would have been scot-free had he not decided, and I don't really even understand why he went back.
Didn't make any sense.
To the scene of the crime?
Why don't you do an anonymous call to the police and be like, hey, there's a big shootout in the desert. That would be much more helpful than going and giving the guy, what are you going to do after you give him water? He's still going to bleed out, right?
Talk about Texas being small, though. The town is like 30 people. So I'd be like, all right, anonymous tip. It came from one of 30 people. So...
Oh, I guess that's true.
Yeah, you could...
No, but you could just be like, I saw a gang-related shootout, or like I heard a gang-related shootout. I don't want to give my name because I'm nervous, like, whatever. Right? Like, that's... They're not going to track you down.
Fake an accent. Just be like, oh, hello, I'm here in Texas, and there was a shootout. There seemed to be some over-the-border folks. Yeah.
Or just send a fucking anonymous letter. You know what I mean? Like, you can do a million things. Yeah.
Llewellyn, what you doing over there? I'm writing a letter to the police.
Yeah. Llewellyn being a guy's name, though, also. And him calling him Moss half the time, then Llewellyn the other half. I was very confused by that.
I kind of like that. I like the name Llewellyn. It's a nice name.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Hey. Yeah. I mean, it has Ellen in it, which is a female's name, right? I don't know.
I'm not a big fan of putting male or female between names. Why?
There we go.
Look at, we have it.
I guess there is Dylan. There's girls Dylans.
Look at that. And in Top Gun, the woman's name's Charlie. Great name for a lady, Charlie.
Charlie's Angels. Yeah.
No, Charlie's a man.
Okay. All right, perfect.
Yeah, but yeah, so he just should never have gone back. Simple as that. And so
I mean, it didn't make sense.
But you know what doesn't make sense? That everyone does it. Everyone returns to the scene of a crime. It's like actually a true thing. Like they always, anytime there's like a memorial service or if a crime scene's set up, they immediately have cameras and stuff because they just know that like murderers are going to come back for some reason or another. People just get drawn back to those crimes. Granted, Llewellyn did it for like a good reason. He wanted to give some dying guy a little bit of water. Just didn't work out that
Again,
great.
what was he going to do? The guy's going to still die if he doesn't give him medical attention. So wouldn't calling it in be better?
Yeah, well, he just wanted to give him water. He didn't want to save his life. He just wanted him to die without, parched lips. Simple as that. What else did you have for Stock Down?
Spending money, Stock Down. Or if we have a callback to another book, Blank Check stock down. I mean, same thing.
Ooh.
I mean, if you remember the inheritance games where
Don't tell me about that.
she had billions of dollars and just didn't know how to spend the money. This is the same thing here. You pick up $2.4 million in 1980. That's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you shouldn't return to the scene of the crime. You should change the bag out, just because I would not want to be carrying the same bag that someone might know is from that drop, right? And you never know if there's blood or what's in it, right? And once you change the bag, you realize, oh, the cash is a tracker in it. Bang, problem solved. But the whole thing is, once you need to go on the run, drive somewhere else. Go to California. Fly to, I mean, it's 1980. Fly to Hawaii. Fly to Mexico. Go wherever you want. Why are you staying in the same town and then spending money at motels? Get a secure hotel. Go to a place, spend the money. Why? Like, what are we doing here? It didn't make any sense why he was doing what he was doing the whole time. This is what I think what the movie was pissing me off. What is he doing? Do you understand what's going on?
I do, and I see that, like, Carla Jean or whatever, I think that's her name, his wife, her mom's in El Paso or whatever the case is, and, you know, she needs taken care of because she's sick. So why not be like, baby, I love you, and I love your mom. She's a real saint. So what we should do is we should pack up all of our things. We should pick up your mom, and we should drive to the Northeast because they have some of the best hospitals in the country. We can go to New York, hit up Cedars-Sinai. We can go to Boston. They got great hospitals up there, great oncology wards. We can go up there and get her the best treatment ever. She's like, wow, well, that's amazing. Like, I love you even more. The only problem is I'm 19 years old. What the fuck have you been doing courting a 16-year-old girl, you sick fuck, at Walmart of all places? You went in to buy some charcoal and you came out with, instead of 16 briquettes, you came out with a 16-year-old? That's just not appropriate. No, but I totally agree with you. I think it might be a level of familiarity, and also just who knows what you're going to do when you don't know what the fuck's going on, especially after the situation when he goes back and then the whole shootout happens. You know, then you're just flying by the seat of your pants. He needed to kind of, and maybe honestly, like, maybe he wants that.
He hated his wife, right?
Well, there's just like some really interesting conversations at the beginning. He's like, you open your mouth one more time, I'm going to take you in the back and screw you. It's like,
when that first scene went down, I was like, so he's like 70 and she's like 70 also? Like, they're just like an old couple, right? Then they're like, she's 19. Yeah. I'm like, is this a different character I've been
40
reading?
And she's 12.
Yeah. Yeah, that didn't make any sense. That.
Yeah, but he's also a Vietnam vet who obviously, like, experienced that living super close to the edge life when he's sniping North Viet Cong. You know, maybe he just wanted a little piece of that life back because he's just a welder now, and he's a welder living in a trailer. There's no excitement or whatnot, so maybe it wasn't necessarily just about the money.
Then he does find the tracker, and then instead of just being like, all right, I'll just leave this here and then I'm off free, you know, he's like, I'll just wait for him to come now. What? Why? And then not shoot him? Again, this is like the whole point of where, like, you get taken out of the book or movie, or you just start being like, what the fuck's he doing? It doesn't make any sense.
I thought that shootout was super fun, so I enjoyed it. But my next talk down ties into yours because it's holding onto a briefcase when you find it packed with over $1 million. And I know that's a long stock down, but if you've never learned anything from anything, who knows what's in that briefcase? Like you said, you know, there could be a tracking device in there, which there was. There could be those ink packs. You know, I know the briefcase from a drug bust, but, you know, maybe it was previously taken from a bank, or maybe they're doing the same kind of thing. There might not even be, you know, there might be a bunch of ones in the middle of the whole thing. You have no idea what the case is. They might be sequential bills. You know, you might want to take a look at them.
Yeah, clean them. Go to a casino, you know, start washing them.
Yeah, exactly. Do something. But, so yeah, the whole thing about holding onto the briefcase, like, no. Step one is get a duffel bag. You take it out, you inspect, flip through each wad of notes, and you make sure that you're all square away. And then you toss that briefcase into a river and you get the fuck out of Dodge. Llewellyn didn't do it. I think he wanted to. He wanted to be on the run. He wanted to do that whole thing. That's my take.
When he started getting under fire or things happening, he was super resourceful and smart.
Oh, yeah,
so it didn't really make sense that he was like, all right, so I'm going to do all these things and hide this bag with like poles. And he was just like, all of a sudden thinking very clearly when he needed to. But when it came to just general basic logic, he was just an idiot. So I don't get it why he was like that.
Except for when he got all fitted out when he went to the cowboy store, the clothing store after coming back from Mexico. So good, just like walks in. It almost reminds me of like GTA or something like that. He just like walks into a store with nothing on and then comes out with like fresh haircut, big 10-gallon hat, ostrich boots, or whatever the case was. It's great. I loved it. Stetson. Why not? Go for it. Get yourself what do they call them? Those ties, that bolo ties. Those ties that they wear down in your part in San Diego. Love that. Love all of it. Did you have any other stock downs?
Last one, Mail, stock down.
Mail? M-A-I-L?
Yes, correct. Like Kramer and Seinfeld. I mean, I'd be boycotting Mail after reading this book if Mail was still a thing these days. But, I mean, you basically can just walk in someone's house and just check their mail and be like, okay, so here's all the people they called, and here's like all the bills they have, and every single thing about your life is somehow transferred in your mail. Imagine like today if at the end of the month, Apple sent you a piece of mail that was like, here's all the text messages you sent. Here's all the people you called. Some people would be horrified.
Oh my God.
You know?
All the subscriptions, Brazzers.
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly. All that stuff just being shown there. So, yeah, if you ever want to stalk someone or anything, go back in time and just fucking open up the mailbox and you got their whole life story.
Well, it's a federal offense.
Like.
You can't do that.
Well, if you're murdering people, I think it's okay.
Yo. Well, you already have a federal offense?
I think you're breaking some bigger laws at that point.
That's a really good point. It's super interesting that, when you forget a bunch of this stuff, because it was around when we were kids, right. But now it's not. Now everything just comes like it's auto pay, it's in your Gmail or whatever the case is. We used to get a phone bill that had a list of all the numbers you had dialed and, itemized, whatnot. It was always weird to me, and it still is weird to me when people hold on to mail. Granted, like I don't clean out my inbox or anything, but the fact that you're using square footage of your house to store mail is just super, super odd to me. And I feel like everyone has a junk drawer with like some weird mail in it. But at that time in the 80s, I'm sure everyone had old letters and stuff, not even like personal letters, but letters from banks and letters from this and that, just stuffed in drawers. So Shiger, he's a pretty good detective himself. He sits down and has himself a little ham sandwich and reads the mail while he's watching the Golden Girls. So good for him. He sees there's only like 3 numbers called. And I mean, I know you're talking about how everything seems so close and how the heck couldn't Llewellyn have got away, but Shiger is like, he has the ability to figure out wherever you are, wherever you went. Like he knows everything.
Well, that's why it's just like take off to wherever, don't go to any place you've ever been. That seems like it's easy enough. And it's not like there's the internet where you can just track people down and things like that. You could literally just walk up to an airport in the 80s and be like, I'm going to go on the next flight and I'm going to pay cash. They're like, all right, sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy crossed the border in a fucking hospital outfit and they're like, well, you served in the army, so come on in.
I think you could probably still do that actually. Like even if you didn't have a passport, if you're going back into the U.S. from the Mexico.
Yeah, they would probably frisk you up a little bit more.
And I love the only problem the guy had was about his wife. Did you love her or whatever the case was?
Yeah.
It's like,
buy her a thing of flowers when you get back.
It's like, what are you doing here, buddy? It was an interesting heel turn right there. It was like he went from like, who the hell are you, to like, where did you serve? Oh, okay, you served. Oh, great. Do you love your wife? Make sure you take care of her. She loves you. Be nice. It's like all of a sudden we got Dr. Phil in the house. I just had the last one, and I hate to say it, but America. Sorry,
you've done this a couple times.
I know, but this one's bad. Carla Jean asked old Ed Tom there, whatever. She says, "Do you mind if I smoke?" And he says, "It's still America, ain't it?" Well, I mean, America has changed nowadays. Nope, there's no freedom here. Immediately, you went to light up a butt, someone would probably throw a whole gallon of water on you. It'd be like the ice bucket challenge all over again. And they'd say, "What are you doing? This is America. You can't just smoke wherever you want." Bullshit. All right, America, you've gone downhill. If Carla Jean, in her distress, wants to light up a butt in a restaurant, let her do it, okay?
Do you really think that?
No, absolutely not. I don't think that at all.
Okay, I was like, wait.
Absolutely terrible. It's crazy to think, like, in our lifetime, when we were kids, you went to a restaurant and they said smoking or non-smoking. What? And the difference was nothing. They were one table across from each other. Like, smoke is just contained. It's not like you're in a casino or something where they have, super high ceilings and these incredible air ventilation systems. We're talking like a TGI Fridays. Like, how much is the air moving in that place? There's so much
Yeah.
grease trapped in those things. It's fascinating to me, like, that still exists. I mean, the wife's been watching Seinfeld, which is a throwback, and you see, like, those conversations are happening. Granted, New York was one of the first people to ban it, but, you know, those conversations happen at restaurants in those shows, and you're just like, holy smokes. It's crazy. Well, pun intended. It's crazy that was, like, a thing. And, like, when we were kids, like, that was a thing.
Well, if people wanted to do like cocaine next to me, I wouldn't care at all. But smoking is just so invasive.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's just so fucking annoying. It bothers other people. If anyone wants to do whatever they want to do on their thing that doesn't impact me, I don't give a shit. Yeah, I completely agree with you. With
Do you want to do
Fuck
the
that.
Coke or non-Coke section?
Yeah. These people have been really coked out. Do you want to be on that section? Nah, I'm good. Thank you. Yeah, hats off to them, though. You know, this is America still.
Yeah. It is. It's like, hey, if you want to have a cigarette after dinner, like, just go outside. Like, don't blow it into that baby's face. So, seems pretty straightforward. All right. Did you have a favorite scene in this one?
I think I already kind of hinted at it, but Anton and the wife scene I thought was great. I mean, it was already preluded to with the store clerk and him. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of like philosophical talk, a lot of Schroeder's cat type talk going on, and
I think you lost a.
I'm gonna spoil my favorite scene or my love, but I'll say it. I really like that he killed the wife at the end. That was awesome. That really solidified him as a great evil character. If he got away or she like somehow like pulled a gun out and shot him, I'd be like, oh, come on. But the fact that he was like, I got to do what I got to do, and then just murders her, and that's it, that was great.
Mm-hmm. There is indeed No Country for Old Men. I like that one for sure. I mean, anything with Sugar I was into. I liked him with, I forget what the guy's name is, but Woody Harrelson's character in the movie. Basically the other guy who's...
I don't remember him getting introduced in the movie.
Okay. You didn't make it that far. The other guy that was going to like
the assassin.
Get Llewellyn, yeah. Who was like basically found Llewellyn at the Mexican hospital. So when Sugar and him meet up, Sugar's caught him and they're just kind of shooting the shit. And the guy does a great job of like attempting to call Sugar out for all of his bullshit. And Sugar just like has nothing, you know, doesn't care. Like it does not affect him whatsoever. I just love that scene because it was this guy attempting to be like, well, fuck you. Like, what do you think? You live by this code? It's a bunch of bullshit, this, that, and the other thing. He's like, all right, well, you're still going to die.
He's
so
like, it is what it is. Yeah.
Doesn't change anything here. And they like explained that death pretty graphically that for some sadistic reason enjoyed because he like went to put his hand up. It's like, you're going to close your eyes. It's like, no, I'm not. It's like, yeah, you're going to close your eyes. It's like, fuck, man, this guy is dark. So I love that stuff. Let's get into some loves. What do we love about No Country for Old Men?
I spoiled the first one was just the wife dying, but I just liked it. Kind of like was the definition of walking like you own the place.
Okay.
He'd like walk up to the hotel clerk and be like, give me the records. And they're like, no, I can't do that. You're not a police officer. And he's like, give me the records. And you're just like, fuck yeah, this guy is the best. He's basically, if you play GTA, Grand Theft Auto, he's basically playing GTA while everyone else is just like a
NPC.
Yeah, NPC. Yeah, he's just walking around like what you would do in GTA, where he's just like pulling people over in cars, throwing them out, shooting them in the head, taking their car, like driving off, going up to hotel clerks, being like pulling a gun up, being like, "Give me the shit," and they're like, "All right, I guess I have to give it to you." He has no remorse, nothing that's going on in his head.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just like
no value for human life. His idea is like, all right, if I'm here, then like I'm kind of like the Grim Reaper. You happen to have found me. It's your worst day. That's on you. Or like that's on the world. Yeah. It's not even like your fault.
That's too bad. Yeah.
It's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's just like, well, you happen to be in front of me and I'm going to go through you. I mean, one of the things I loved was I just thought the characters themselves were great. They all felt alive to me and real, and like having Ed Tom or whatever. I think that's what his name is.
I think his name is Bell. Isn't
yeah,
it?
But like that's his last name.
Oh, okay. Well,
because they call him Tom or Ed Tom, whatever. Tom Ed. I'm pretty sure that's it. We're gonna just keep going back and forth, and if someone listened to this, they'd be like, "His name is goddamn." It is Ed Tom.
It's Ed Tom.
Okay.
Ed Tom Bell.
Good. Yeah. Okay. So even having his character in there is just this different mindset of just like, where is the world going? I fought in World War II. It was simpler back then. You know, I became a sheriff when I was
I'm gonna
25.
disagree with you on that, by the way. I thought his character was worthless. Like, what does he actually do? All he does is just whine the whole book. Every chapter starts out with him being like, in my day, and I think it's just the author basically complaining through his voice. But what does the character actually do? He literally just shows up and narrates what already happened. There's like literally zero purpose for him. The only thing he does in the story is I don't know how they're bugging his phone or bugging the wife's phone, but the only thing he does is give away that they're in El Paso. It's the only thing he does for any part of the plot. Everything else is him just whining.
Well,
and I'm like, this guy fucking
he
sucks.
represents, like, I think, a different moral compass, obviously, than Chigurh does, and he also has...
It's not like his moral compass is so much different than the average person. Everyone looks at Anton Chigurh and thinks, this guy's an insane person. So, like, we don't need his character to tell us that.
But we wouldn't have the
already.
title if it wasn't for him, because he's an old man, and there's no country for him. Like, don't you get it?
No, I think the whole thing is based off some poem. Sailing to Byzantium by W.
Byzantium?
B. Yeats. Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
I mean, that's the reason for it. It's not because he's in it. I feel like we could have had him showing up and him just narrating, and if we didn't know what happened in the room, I think it would be interesting. But 90% of the time, we already knew what happened. Although the one time that I kind of wanted to know what happened. They do that with when Moss gets killed. I was like, wait, he just died? What happened here?
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
What did you think about that for Moss? Just kind of, you don't see anything. You just know that he's dead at the end.
When I first read it, I didn't like it. And then the more I got away from it, I was like, all right, that was actually kind of cool. And also, Anton doesn't kill him, which is kind of not a really great climax there.
Yeah. I thought it was good that it wasn't just, and similar to Carla Jean dying, it just wasn't like your typical story. Like the way that you thought it was going to end, which I think ties back to Ed Tom's character in that, okay, we have this idea of how things are going to progress. So he's like, all right, World War II, this thing happens. Okay, yeah, I have this sleepy town. Okay, this is how things are going to go. Next thing you know, it's like kids have green hair, you know? And it's like, oh, what?
I'm like, what does this have to do with anything?
Where these green hair punks come from?
Like, again, it's just him whining and complaining about, back in my day, we used to get mad at kids in school for chewing gum. And now, like, they're doing heroin.
Did you find that the characters felt alive to you? Like, they felt like really fleshed out characters?
I just didn't like Moss's character, but you definitely know someone that's Moss's character, you know? So, but I just didn't think he was useful to the story in any way. It was just more like a way for the narrator or the author to, like, sound off about how pissed off he is at this generation.
All right. What about my next love, which is how the book bounces around between places and characters and like kind of timelines. Did you like that or did you not like that?
How so? I didn't think it really was that big of a timeline shift, was it?
I mean, there was some timeline shifts just in like more like fast forwards, like the Llewellyn death, for example. Like we'd seen him with the girl, they're drinking a couple of beers. Next thing you know, Ed Tom's pulling up to a crime scene. It's like, oh shit, what happened here? So there was like some jumps in that sense, but also just like them basically going from like one character to another in a totally different place. You know, you're with Llewellyn in Mexico, then you're with Carla Jean up in her place, then you're with Chigurh who's on the road. You know, that kind of thing. I thought it like kept it moving.
Well, the problem was for me was that it felt like it was all the same place. Like that's what the whole Texas is being tiny feel. Like that's what Texas is huge. Yeah. It has multiple different areas and different atmospheres. Like every city in Texas is slightly different, but it all felt the same to me. Like there was no like, oh, but now they're in Austin and it's this different feel and this different vibe than they were in, you know, El Paso a minute ago. It was just like, oh, they're all out in the desert like of Texas, spitting tobacco and being like, kids my days, you know. That's what it felt like. Everything felt like to me. I don't know if that was I just read it wrong or it didn't seem any different. It wasn't like there was like this huge like, you know, change in scenery or whatnot.
I like the idea of a spittoon.
What's that?
In like the old Wild West, or a jar on the ground that you spit your tobacco into as opposed to spitting it on the floor.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
I just thought about that when he's an old guy sitting around with their spitting tobacco and whatnot. Yeah, you know, spittoon is nice. Nice thing to have around. We should get one. Let's get one.
Start spitting tobacco.
Why not? I don't know what else you do.
Yeah, fair enough.
What about hate?
I actually did like the World War II background stuff, by the way, with the character, but I think I already told you, I didn't really like Bell as a narrator or just really his purpose in the book. I also thought the ending, I almost wish the ending kind of, after he kills the wife, it should just go to Bell and him being like, I got to retire because I can't. There's too much evil in the world, and that's it. Like, that's how it should have ended. The whole, like, then he got hit by the car, and then I'm going to go ask these kids about this, and then I'm going to talk about dreams I had about my dad. It's like, what does this have to do with anything? It's like, it didn't really, the story was over once he kills the wife, but they're like, let's do another, 100 pages after that.
It wasn't 100 pages.
Stuff doesn't matter.
Well,
you know what I mean. Oh, so something else is going to happen? It's like, nope. None of this stuff really matters at the end here.
Yeah, I agree. It had a little bit too much of a soft landing. And I feel like after the wife was killed, I was like, holy shit, like that really happened. Because I was with you. I was like, oh, is she going to pull out a little pistol and like shoot him and be like, oh, that's the fates have turned. Gotcha. But no, it's like, you can't escape it. You know, you can't escape the Grim Reaper. You can't escape your fate. And I thought that was how it was going to end. Granted, I did like a little comeuppance for him. And once again, I also like that he didn't die, because that would have almost been like too storybook of randomness. So it kept us on our toes, but I did think that I was like kind of checked out after that. And I knew based on how much time was left in it that it wasn't going to be like Ed Tom went and found him and they had their own meetup. I was like, this is just going to end. But like, so end it.
I do like, though, that we did get the inclusion of him being like, but I don't ever wear a seatbelt just in case, you know, a car is going 60 miles per hour through a stop sign and T-bones me. I can jump to the other side. Yeah. I was like, wait, what? What kind of physics are we talking about here?
Yeah, that's exactly. You can totally jump over the middle console in that time. Honestly, the ending aspect, and maybe, and I don't know if I really want this, but the whole corporation structure of how these drugs are moved, I just found fascinating. And I've been listening to Power of the Dog, which I think I suggested to you and like you read.
Yeah, I read it.
So I was listening to that on the side just as I was, waiting for you to catch up on these books, which, to be fair to all those people out there, Keith's usually way ahead of me, so I appreciate that I'm now ahead. So I figured I might as well listen to that, and that has so much background on it, and it's very similar. If you like this book, No Country for Old Men, I would definitely check out Power of the Dog, because it's similar in this like border town drug trade kind of situation. If you like Narcos, the show Narcos, I mean, definitely check.
Yeah, it's very similar to Narcos.
Definitely check out Power of the Dog. So I wanted a little more zoom out, and I like that this is a specific story about these characters, but then I just got interested in, whoa, who is this corporal? Like, who's this like oil tycoon who's involved in this drug running? Like, how does that work? How did you get involved in that? But that's probably just another book. So I didn't necessarily hate it, but I would have liked to see who's pulling the strings. I guess we'll just get into it. You would recommend it then?
Yeah, I think it was good. I think it was solid. I mean, Anton is such a good character that really made the book. That's it. I don't think that necessarily the story was the most amazing. And I already said I didn't really like any other character. I didn't like Moss at all either. Like, it wasn't like I liked him either. So I didn't really like all the characters otherwise. But I thought it was just an interesting take on it. It was much better than Cormac McCarthy book I read. I just don't think he's probably not the author for me. But I can respect. He's obviously a great writer. It's just not what I really like. But it's still a good book.
I like that you said you respect him as an author, because that's what the world says, but you hate his books. It's perfect.
He's a really good writer and great at writing dialogue also, I think. Yeah. But I'm more of like a narrative driven. It's like very similar to the other book I read, where it goes into a lot of like society talk and like why things have gone wrong and everything like that. There's a lot of like God talk too, and like similar to this book, which I was like, I don't care for the show.
Yeah, I think if we were smarter, I like this book as well. I think if we were smarter, we would like it more, because I think there's probably a lot.
That's fair.
I think there's probably like a lot more to talk about. Like, I feel like this would be in like a literary class or something like that. The fact that we can enjoy it, and it's also probably something that we, is a little over our heads, and someone that actually knows something could sit us down and explain it to us, and we go, oh, that's pretty cool.
A literary club would be like, Anton's the worst and his hypocrisies are so like throughout the whole book, and I'd be like, wait, what? This guy's the best. He's awesome.
Like someone that knows Lord of the Rings or something along those lines. When you're watching the movies, if they're explaining a little bit of backstory to you, like, oh, Sauron's actually like a fallen angel, like he came down, it's like he's in this kind of the same class as Gandalf but higher. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. As long as it's not too preachy, then I'm here for it. So I feel like someone along those lines could make us even enjoy it more. But yeah, I liked it. It's not gonna crack my top 10, but I'm glad that there was a nice rebound after The Road for you.
Yeah.
That's important for me. Smuggling, drugs, murder, what else do you need?
Yeah, right.
Perfect.
Exactly.
We'll probably talk offline whether or not we want to do this movie or not. But you guys may see it coming in the future. Otherwise, we're going back to, why do I forget the author's name?
The Martian, Anywhere, The Martian Next.
We had previously read Project Hail Mary, which has been on this podcast. We did Artemis, which has been on this podcast. So now we're going back to his first book, which is The Martian. And it's funny because we thought Artemis was probably in the bottom 10% of books we've read, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that book was not good. Check us out next time for The Martian. We may or may be doing No Country for Old Men. And we got some other stuff coming in the future. I got a couple suggestions for you that we can take offline. That was No Country for Old Men by Cormac, McCarthy. Keith, it's great talking to you. And we'll catch everybody next time for The Martian.
Alrighty. Bye now.